The civilian leader of Myanmar, who was removed from power, has been told she'll go to prison for 4 years. Hello, I'm Rob, and this is News Review from BBC Learning English. And joining me today is Roy. Hi, Roy.
Hello, Rob, and hello, everybody. If you would like to test yourself on the vocabulary around this story, all you need to do is head to our website, bbclearningenglish.com, to take a quiz. But now let's hear more about this story from this BBC News report.
Myanmar's ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been sentenced to 4 years in prison. A spokesman for the ruling military junta said she'd been found guilty of inciting unrest and violating COVID restrictions during last year's election campaign.
So, this story is about Aung San Suu Kyi, the former civilian leader of Myanmar. She was removed from power and replaced by a military junta. Now she has been told she will go to prison for 4 years.
And we've got 3 words from the news headlines that we can use to talk about this story, haven't we?
Yes, we have. We have sentences, ousted, and incitement.
That's sentences, ousted, and incitement. Okay, well, let's have a look at the first of those words. Tell us about your headline, please, Roy.
Okay, so my first headline comes from here at home at the BBC, and it reads, Aung San Suu Kyi, Myanmar court sentences ousted leader to 4 years jail.
Sentences. Declares punishment for someone found guilty of a crime.
Yes, so this word is spelled S-E-N-T-E-N-C-E-S, sentences. And it's basically telling somebody officially their punishment after being found guilty of a crime.
But I thought sentences were groups of words put together with a full stop at the end. Isn't that a sentence?
Well, yeah. Yes, it is. Speaking about language, yes, we talk about a complete grouping of words that usually ends in a full stop or a question mark, and it forms a statement or a question. For example, my name is Roy is a sentence. How are you is also a sentence. But obviously in the headline, we're not talking about a language point. The word sentences in the headline is a verb, and it's used to talk about delivering or declaring the punishment for somebody who's been found guilty of a crime. Very different meaning.
Okay, so we're talking about a kind of legal word here. It's very official kind of word.
Absolutely, yes. So, for example, in a court of law, you have the process, which is called the trial. And at the end, if the person is found guilty, they can be sentenced. So, for example, sentenced to several years in prison.
Okay, so I say official words. So if at work, for example, I wasn't doing very well and my boss wasn't very happy, could he sentence me to more work?
No, we don't use it outside. We don't really use it outside of a court of law, to be honest. In that case, he may punish you or reprimand you, or tell you off if if he tells you you're doing something bad. He wouldn't sentence you to extra work, or you wouldn't sentence your child to extra chores because they arrived home late, for example. We wouldn't use it in that context. It's a very official usage.
And so we talk about to sentence someone, that's the verb. Is there kind of a noun form of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can sentence someone or give someone a sentence.
Right, a verb and a noun. Okay, thanks for that, Roy. Let's have a summary of that word. Of course, we've talked about Myanmar in the past here on News Review, and we did a story about when the military took control. Roy, how can we watch that video again?
All you need to do is click the link in the description below.
Good stuff. Yeah, click down below. Okay, Roy, let's have a look at your next headline, please.
Okay, so our next headline comes from the Financial Times, the FT, and it reads, Ousted Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi sentenced to 4 years in prison.
Ousted. That's expelled from a place or position.
Yes, so this word is spelled O-U-S-T-E-D. Ousted. Ousted. That last sound is id. and it means to remove somebody from a position or a place.
And there's a feeling of force about this removal. There's no choice in it, really.
Absolutely, that's right. Yeah, there is that feeling of a forceful removal, and that is key to understanding this word. Now, when we talk about forcefully removing somebody, it's not necessarily physical. It can be physical, but we can also talk about it in the idea of it being kind of political pressure. So it doesn't need to be a physical force to remove somebody from that position of power.
And again, another formal word here, not something we use in everyday conversation.
No, you wouldn't. Now, going back to that idea of forceful removal, it can be, for example, a group of people in a place, for example, protesters, and maybe the protest has got a little bit violent, and the police decide to remove them by force. They oust them from a place. And again, that is an official usage.
They actually physically move people, or try to physically move people. This sort of happened, though, at a party I went to recently where I ate all the biscuits. Now, people weren't very happy that I'd eaten all the biscuits, of course. But could I say they ousted me out of the party because they weren't very happy?
I mean, you could if you wanted to be really dramatic, but we wouldn't really normally use this in this scenario, for example. And I remember this party. We bought you specific biscuits. Neil bought you biscuits. But you not only ate those biscuits, you ate all of the biscuits. You found the secret biscuits. And Neil was really, really angry. He opened the door and he threw you out. So that's that word there. That's the one we commonly use. Throw somebody out. We don't usually oust them from a party. Oust, as I say, is an official word talking about removal of protesters or a political position, somebody from a political position. In this case, we threw you out of the party. I'm sorry, but you shouldn't eat all the biscuits.
Okay, noted. But just to say, throw out, you didn't actually physically throw me out. I'm sure you'd have liked to have done. You just kind of opened the door and said, go, yeah?
Yeah, so it's the same idea. You can throw somebody out like asking them to leave, or you can physically eject them. But we chose to do it with words, with pressure of words.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's have a summary of that word. Now, robots, of course, are a threat to many of our jobs. Maybe they'd like to oust the human being from a position. And we've talked about robots taking over the role of a doctor. This is something we discussed in 6 Minute English. How can we watch that program again, Roy?
All you need to do is click the link in the description below.
Yeah, down below. Okay, time now for our next headline, please.
Right, so our next headline comes from The Guardian, and it reads, Aung San Suu Kyi sentenced to 4 years in prison for incitement.
That's incitement, action of provoking unlawful activities.
So this word is spelled I-N-C-I-T-E-M-E-N-T. In the headline, it's being used in the noun form. The verb form of this is incite. And it basically means stimulating somebody to do something negative or bad.
And we could say it's about provocation and unlawful behaviour. That's key here, isn't it?
Absolutely. So let's talk about that idea of provocation or provoking somebody. Now, provoking has an idea of encouraging somebody, but encouraging, we usually use that in a positive sense. So I encourage you to be better. Provoking somebody is about stimulating somebody to do something negative. And that is the idea of incitement or incite. It's basically provoking somebody to do something bad or unlawful.
Yeah, it's like prodding them and saying, go on, go and do this. It's a bit naughty, but go and do it. But of course, it's illegal and dangerous activities we're talking about here, mainly.
Yeah, we wouldn't normally use it in a sort of outside of talking about illegal or unlawful behaviors. This is something very serious. It's something big. So, for example, you wouldn't incite a friend to do something bad. You would maybe provoke them. So we wouldn't normally use it in a casual sense. It's more of a kind of more formal and serious sense.
And it's on a large scale as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's have a summary of that word. Okay, time now to recap the vocabulary, please, Roy.
Okay, so we had sentences. Declares punishment for someone found guilty of a crime. We had ousted, expelled from a place or position. And we had incitement, action of provoking unlawful activities.
Thank you, Roy. There you go. 3 useful words from the headlines to help you talk about this news story. And don't forget, on our website, there's a quiz where you can test your understanding of the vocabulary. It's there at bbclearningenglish.com. Don't forget, by the way, we're all over social media as well. That's the end of News Review for today. Thank you so much for watching. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. Bye.
Netherlands goes into Christmas lockdown due to the rise of the Omicron strain. Hello, I'm Rob, and this is News Review from BBC Learning English. And joining me today is Roy. Hello, Roy.
Hello, Rob, and hello, everybody. If you would like to test yourself on the vocabulary around this story, all you need to do is head to our website, bbclearningenglish.com, to take a quiz. But now let's hear more about this story from this BBC News report.
A 4-week coronavirus lockdown has come into force in the Netherlands. All but essential shops have shut until mid-January, as well as bars, restaurants and cinemas. Schools and colleges will also remain closed. The Dutch Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, said Omicron variant was spreading faster than feared.
So, a new lockdown has started in the Netherlands. Just the essential shops are still open, with all other shops and institutions closed until the middle of January. This is due to the faster than expected spread of the Omicron strain.
Yes, and we've got 3 words and expressions from the news headlines that we can use to talk about this story. What are they, Roy?
We do. We have stem, rule out, and on the table.
That's stem, rule out, and on the table. Right, well, let's look at your first headline, please.
Okay, so our first headline comes from the Evening Standard, and it reads, Netherlands enter strict Christmas lockdown to stem Omicron.
That's stem, stop something from increasing.
Okay, so this word is spelled S-T-E-M. It's a verb, and it means to stop something from rising, increasing, or spreading.
I'm familiar with the word stem. A stem is the body of a plant, isn't it? It grows from the roots, grows upwards, and then the flowers come out of the side of it. The stem is the main part of a plant, yes?
Yes, it is. You're right. But you're using that word as a noun there, and it's not really related to the word that we're looking at. Stem, in this case, is talking about something undesirable that is spreading or increasing, like a virus. So we talk about stemming the spread of the virus, to stop the spread of the virus. And we quite often use it with expressions like stem the tide of, or stem the rise of something.
And we can also use it about stemming the rise in crime, or maybe the government might want to stem the number of protesters in a protest, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's talking about things that people see as undesirable. But there is another way that we use the word stem, and that can also mean, as a verb, it can also mean to originate. It's a different meaning. It means to originate or come from. So, for example, the problem stems from the lack of funding, or it stems from the lack of funding.
So meaning, as you say, it comes from, it originates from something. Yes. And goes on to be a bad problem.
Absolutely. And if you want another meaning of the word STEM, you might sometimes hear it in relation to subjects at schools or universities. For example, the STEM subjects, which means science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM subjects.
Yes, very good example there. Thank you. Yes, that's 3 meanings of STEM. Okay, let's have a look at the summary, please. In a previous news review programme, we talked about stopping the cyber criminals, didn't we, Roy?
We did, and all you need to do to see that program is click the link in the description.
Yeah, just click down below. Okay, it's time now for our next headline, please.
Okay, so our next headline comes from CNN, and it reads, Netherlands reimposes strict lockdown and UK won't rule out new measures over Omicron.
That's rule out. Say something is not a possibility.
Okay, so this word is a phrasal verb. First word, rule, R-U-L-E. Second word, out, O-U-T. And it is separable. So you can rule something out or rule out something. And it basically means to say or declare that something is not a possibility.
Okay, let's break this down. A rule is something we're supposed to follow. It's a bit like a law. Well, it is a law, I suppose, that we have to follow. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. But in the case of rule out, when you add that preposition, it changes the meaning. So you're saying that something is not a possibility. You're declaring or announcing that it's not an option. Now, in the case of the headline, it says the UK won't rule out a possibility. So it's saying that the UK won't say that extra measures are not an option.
And we use this word or hear this word or expression used quite a lot in politics, don't we?
We do. So somebody, a politician may rule themselves out of the running or to go for the presidency, for example. So she ruled herself out of going for the presidency. But we don't only talk about this in politics. You can also talk about this in the case of work, for example. So maybe there's a big promotion at work, but you decide that that job isn't for you. So you rule out the chances of you going for it, or you rule yourself out of going for the job.
Yeah, and we've used this expression quite recently when we were talking about trying to organise our Christmas party. Obviously, because of the risks around coronavirus, we had to rule out the idea of a Christmas gathering this year, didn't we?
We did. We ruled out the possibility of meeting in person, but we still managed to have a little party online.
Which was very nice. We didn't rule that out at all, did we?
No, we did not.
We had a good time. Good stuff. Okay, let's have a summary of that expression.
Xin chào các bạn, tôi là Nguyễn Ngọc Phi, hiện nay đang là chủ tịch của Yupo Group và đồng thời là
Now, some of us might rule out the idea of playing video games because they're maybe too complicated, but not Roy. You like video games, don't you, Roy?
No, I love video games. I absolutely love them. And we have a program all about Super Mario for you to watch. All you need to do is click the link in the description.
Just down below. Thanks, Roy. Okay, what is your next headline, please?
Okay, so our next headline comes from the Brussels Times. This headline comes from a paper in Belgium, one of the Netherlands' neighbours, and relates to this story. It reads, Belgian lockdown not on the table yet, says Walloon Health Minister.
So that's on the table, available for consideration.
Okay, so this is a three-word expression. First word on, O-N. Second word the, T-H-E. Third word table, T-A-B-L-E. And it basically means that something like a plan or a part of a plan is available for consideration or is being discussed.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, I eat my dinner on a table. So does that mean we put food on the table for consideration?
Well, we do. But this isn't related to your eating habits, Rob. Now, if we continue with that idea of food, if there is food on the table, you can eat it. If there is no food on the table, well, you can't eat it. Now, when we talk about something being on the table, it talks about an idea or a plan being available for consideration or discussion. It's quite commonly used in business.
Yes, it's a business kind of related expression, as you say. Going back to my idea of food on the table, I suppose there is food there. You know, you can choose. There's a consideration of which food you're going to eat. But as you say, this is more about documents and contracts and important things related to business.
Yes. If we return to the headline, the health minister is basically saying that a lockdown in Belgium is not on the table at the moment. It's saying that the idea is, or the plan of a lockdown is not being discussed or considered yet.
Yeah, yet. May change, who knows? Okay. Thanks for that, Roy. Let's have a summary of that expression. Okay, time now, Roy, to recap the vocabulary that we've been discussing today.
Yes, we had STEM, stop something from increasing. We had rule out, say something is not a possibility. And we had on the table, available for consideration.
And don't forget, you can test your understanding of these words and expressions in a quiz that's on our website at bbclearningenglish.com. There's loads of other learning English materials there as well. And don't forget, you can always check us out on social media. Well, that's all for today's programme. Thank you so much for watching and have a happy Christmas. Bye for now.
Bye.
Singer-songwriter Adele persuades Spotify to change the shuffle option on albums. Hello, this is News Review. I'm Rob, and this is coming to you from BBC Learning English. And joining me today is Neil. Hi, Neil.
Hello, Rob, and hello, everyone. If you want to test yourself on the vocabulary you hear in this programme, there's a quiz on our website, bbclearningenglish.com. Let's find out some more about that story about Spotify and Adele from this BBC News Bulletin.
Spotify has stopped automatically shuffling albums after Adele pointed out that musicians put a lot of thought into track listings. The shuffle symbol will still appear on individual songs, so users will be able to start listening to albums on any track and opt for them to be played in a random order.
So the British singer-songwriter Adele has released a new album called 30, and she has asked Spotify for them to remove the shuffle function, for that to appear automatically. She's asked for that to be removed because she, like a lot of musical artists, say they put a lot of time and effort into deciding the running order, the list, the order that the songs come in. They think it's part of the artistic process and that the shuffle ruins that. She's asked Spotify to change it, and they have.
Good. And you've picked 3 words and expressions from newspaper headlines about this story, haven't you? What are they?
I have. We have default, bows to, and obliged.
That's default, bows to, and obliged. Okay, let's have a look at your first newspaper headline, please.
Sure. The headline comes from The Times, which is a British newspaper, and it reads, Adele persuades Spotify to remove shuffle as default option on albums.
That's default, standard, first option.
Yeah. Now, Rob, you know when you get a new mobile phone,
Yeah.
is it set up in exactly the way you like to use it?
No, never. It comes with default factory settings. It's how the company want it set up.
Yeah, that's right. That's the way that it's set up. And if you want to change it to the way you like, what do you have to do?
Yeah, I personalize the settings. So I set it up in a way that, or the way I want to use it, not the default settings, as you say.
Yeah, so you personalize or customize, we often say as well.
Yeah.
The settings, the default settings are the ones that come as standard.
And sometimes we see this word with by at the beginning, by default.
Yes, right. And that's slightly different. When we say that something has happened by default, that means that there has been, or there is, no other option. So what we are left with is as a result of there being no choice.
No options, yeah. A bit like our BBC Learning English football match. Something happened by default there, didn't it?
Yes. We got together a BBC Learning English football team. Nobody wanted to go in goal, but Rob, being the kind of guy that he is, he volunteered to be the goalkeeper. So he kind of became the keeper by default. It wasn't really anybody's choice. Didn't work out very well, did it, Rob?
No. Well, I'm not the best goalie in the world, and I let in 10 goals, but that's what happens when I become goalie by default, of course. It was a disaster.
Yes, 10-0. Yes, if something happens by default, it's not always the best result because, as we said, it's something that happened through a lack of choice and option.
And there's a verb form of this word, is that right?
Yes, the verb to default. We default on something. So you can default on a loan, for example, in financial terms. It means that you didn't pay something that you were supposed to pay.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. Let's have a summary of that word.
Grammarly can help you write quickly and confidently, so you never have to slow down at work. Instant corrections make your writing mistake-free, while keeping it short, sweet, and fitting in tone. Join more than 20 million people who use Grammarly to write better every
Now, many people think that Adele has a beautiful voice. She sings really well, but apparently you don't have to sing in tune. Well, that's according to a discussion with Georgina and Neil on 6 Minute English. And you can hear that discussion by how, Neil?
You just got to click on the link. Click on the link to hear about singing, even if you have a really bad voice.
Down below. Thank you. Right, let's have a look at your next headline, please.
Yes, the next headline comes from the Bangkok Post, and it reads, Spotify bows to Adele, drops shuffle as album song playing default.
That's bows to, agrees to someone's demands.
Yes, bows to, a phrasal verb there, as you say, agrees to someone's demands. Now, it's useful to break this up. The first part is bows or bow, and if you bow, Rob, what do you do?
Yes, so I move from a higher position to a lower position. A bit like this. I might do it if I bump into the Queen, for example. If the Queen is out walking out and about, I am traditionally supposed to bow to her because she's in a sort of a higher position of authority. She has more power than me.
Yes, that's right. So in a lot of cultures where bowing takes place, it's a sign of respect. You lower yourself to show that the other person is in some way superior, sometimes just out of politeness. But used in this headline, in this expression, bow to something, it means to allow the other party, the other person to display their power over you.
Could we say we're giving in? We're giving in to the other power, the higher authority.
Of saying it's to give in. That means you let somebody else impose their demands on you. So Spotify bowed figuratively to Adele. It means that Adele had greater power in this situation.
And it's quite a formal a phrase. I mean, would I bow to your demands? If you asked me to make a cup of tea, would I bow to you?
It would sound very over the top, very formal. It's not really for little incidents like that. You might use it ironically to make it sound more important than it was.
Okay, thanks for that. Well, let's have a summary of that phrase. So that was bows to, a phrasal verb, and we have a whole programme about phrasal verbs. It's English class, and you can watch that. Well, tell us how, Neil.
Click the link below.
Down below, thank you. Right, let's have a look at your next newspaper headline, please.
Okay, the next headline comes from NPR, the American radio station, and it reads, Adele asked Spotify to remove the default shuffle button for albums, and they obliged.
So that's obliged, agreed or forced to do something.
Yeah, it's basically do what somebody asks you to do. And in this expression, in this headline, it means that Adele asked for this thing and Spotify did what she asked. They obliged as a verb there.
And that comes from the noun word, an obligation, when you have to do something.
Yes, so obligation is the noun that describes this kind of situation. So, for example, Rob, you and I work for BBC Learning English, and therefore it is our obligation to do news review.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, it means we have to do it. We could also say, could we, that we feel obliged to do it as of adjective form. Is that right?
Feel obliged to do something. Yes, it means that you feel that you have to do something. You feel that it's your responsibility to do something. And we also have this expression, much obliged.
Yes, it's quite an old-fashioned expression, isn't it? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, that's slightly different. That is basically another way of saying thank you. So if somebody does a favour for you or does something for you and you feel obliged, you feel thanks towards them, we can say much obliged.
Like if you help me out with my biscuit shortage and you provided your biscuits, I go, much obliged, Neil.
Exactly, Rob, exactly. That's a brilliant example, as ever.
Right, well, much obliged, Neil. Let's have a summary of that word. Okay, Neil, could you recap the vocabulary that we've been talking about today, please?
Yes, we had default, standard first option. Bows to is persuaded to do something. And obliged, agreed or forced to do something.
Thank you. And don't forget you can test yourself on these words and expressions in a quiz that's on our website at bbclearningenglish.com. And